If you're a dystopian fiction fan like me, then raise your hands. If you've ever read George Orwell's 1984 or perhaps watched Black Mirror, Westworld, or even The Social Dilemma, then click thumbs up. Or if you've never thought that dystopia could happen in our lifetime, click thumbs up. Dystopia is closer to reality than you think, and two recent Court of Justice of the European Union judgments show just how far the governments of UK, France, and Belgium have been spying on its people. Hi everyone, my name is Christina and I'm a Harvard lawyer living in Germany. Given these judgments, I wanted to take the time to explain 3 points. The first being about the judgments itself and what mass surveillance is. The second, exploring the link between COVID-19, terrorism, and mass surveillance. Finally, I wanted to give good browsing habits tips that you can adopt in your daily lives, and one privacy hack that blew my mind. Mass surveillance is the spying on everyone and all of their data, and it's usually justified by some link to protecting national or public security or preventing serious crime, something that every country defines differently. Communications data is usually the subject of mass surveillance, and it mainly relates to telephony and internet data, which is traffic and location data. And this type of data shows, for example, Google Map searches, my online searches, and basically my entire browsing history. And furthermore, when our phones are connected through GPS, can show our locations with an accuracy of 1.5 to 3 meters. Scary stuff. The case of the UK focused on mass data collection practices, and specifically the UK's aptly named Super Charter laws, which required telecommunication service providers to collect traffic and location data of its clients and then hand over this data in real time to security intelligence agencies. On the other hand, in France and Belgium, the laws concern mass data retention practices, which required telecommunication service providers to collect traffic and location data of its customers and retain this for a period which enabled security and intelligence agencies to have access to it. Now, this type of data was normally deleted or deleted at a much sooner date. One of the most shocking things that these judgments reveal is the general and indiscriminate nature with which data is retained and collected. What this means is that data will be kept about you without any limitation or safeguards, even though you're not suspected of crime. Basically, it treats everyone, the entire population, as suspects for a crime that hasn't even happened yet. And very often, the governments may not even have a good reason to collect such data, meaning that there is no genuine and present or foreseeable serious threat to national security. Collecting this type of information is like buying 1,000 boxes of pasta at the beginning of a pandemic, just in case a food shortage were to arise. Well, just in case is not a good enough reason for such serious infringements into our privacy. And as these judgments reveal, traffic and location data allow for very precise conclusions to be drawn on the habits of our daily lives. For example, it shows when I go to work or when I walk the dog, how often I go to the gym and where, an appointment at the plastic surgeon's office that happens to last the whole day, or, as a New York Times article reveals, a Microsoft engineer going to Amazon for a job interview. Judgments conclude that mass data collection and retention without any limitation is unlawful. And one of the secondary effects that the judgment hints at is that evidence collected from such mass and unlawful practices may not even be used as evidence in court. What this does is curb the ambitions of governments across Europe from ever being the all-seeing eye of Sauron in The Lord of the Rings. The erosion of privacy and liberties have traditionally happened under the pretext of large events. We saw this in 9/11, where just 6 weeks after the US government adopted the US Patriot Act. This act is an act which really extends the powers of government agencies to spy on its people. And this was a practice that was not really known to the public until the 2013 Edward Snowden leaks. The EU does not have its own Patriot Act, but its privacy laws do allow for exceptions to be made for national security, such as stopping terrorism, or for public health reasons, such as COVID-19. I don't know about you, but the question on my mind is, where does it stop? In response to COVID-19, we see governments collecting and using personal data in new and untested ways. For example, we see governments introducing geolocation health tracking apps. We see fever detection cameras. We even see some countries, such as Poland, introducing selfie apps. Selfie apps are apps designed to show you are home quarantining, basically by sending a selfie of yourself to the police. We should also be asking what happens to our data after it's outlived its COVID-19 purpose. What are the safeguards against abuse? And what happens as technology gets more sophisticated? We can't even comprehend everything that could happen. But think of Rehoboam in Westworld, the pre-crime department in Minority Report, or even China. So, what can we do about it? Well, we could live on a remote island without any access to the internet. Be honest, have you ever made a weird search on Google, such as in my case, Halloween costumes for your dog? And then you go and you log on to Instagram only to find that it's been bombarded by pictures of dogs in the Borat Mankini costume, something that I may have browsed on for a little bit too long. Well, there is a reason for this, and there is something you can do. A good place to start is with what The Economist calls the holy text of the EU, namely the General Data Protection Regulation and the e-Privacy Directive. Article 15 of the GDPR allows you to send a company a subject access request. A subject access request is really just an email asking a company for all of the information they have on you or asking how they process your information. All of your apps, all of your smart devices may constantly know where you are. And they may be also saving and selling this data. According to a European Data Protection Board guidance, a social media provider may even know where you are and what you're doing when you're not using the app, or when you're not even logged in, through what is known as cross-site tracking data. For those of you who watched The Social Dilemma recently, you would have heard the phrase, if you do not pay for the product, you are the product. The problem is that most companies may be transparent about the fact that they collect our data, but this is very often buried in very long texts or dense legalese. If we had to translate it, it would state, by agreeing to download and use this app, you agree that we can track you in real time and sell your data to third parties. If we knew this, we'd probably think twice before we download the app. The first thing you can do is watch The Social Dilemma. The second thing you can do is see what companies are telling you when they're actually trying to be transparent. For example, Facebook has a tool which shows you all of the websites it tracks when you're not using the app. This is something I discovered recently and it blew my mind. And now I'm going to show you how you can access your off-Facebook activity. Begin by logging into Facebook, and if you're using the app, click on the bottom right icon, which is the three lines. Once you do that, this menu will appear and click on Settings. Keep scrolling down until you see your Facebook information and then click on Off Facebook Activity. Once you get here, click on Manage your Off Facebook Activity. Normally at this point, they'll prompt you to put in your password. I just did that, so I didn't need to do it again. Then click on Clear History. You'll get into this screen and it can show you websites it's tracked for, in my case, the last year, dating back to June 2019. So you're going to want to get rid of that by clicking on Clear History. If you want to take it a step further, go back, click on this arrow up here, and then go on More Options. Click on Manage Future Activity. Manage Future Activity again. And then turn off this button, which says Future Off Facebook Activity. And click Turn Off. And now for the good news. There is something you can do to limit the amount of data that is tracked by private companies. For example, you can adopt good day-to-day browsing habits and install privacy-conscious software, such as VPNs, secure web browsers such as Mozilla, Tor, Brave, and Safari for Mac. You can use secure search web engines such as those of DuckDuckGo. And you could also think about deleting your cookies and internet history where it's not necessary. You may also think of investing in secure web add-ons such as those by the Electronic Frontier Foundation and DuckDuckGo's Privacy Essentials. But word of caution, some are fakes and may actually do more harm than good. by stealing your passwords. So before you download anything, always look it up on the internet and do your research. This sounds like too much tech for you, and perhaps you prefer fashion. According to The New Yorker, you can even dress for the surveillance age. Link below. Temporary impingements on our rights and liberties very often become permanent. We see this in dystopian movies, and we see this in real life. Even Batman in The Dark Knight engaged in mass-scale spying on the citizens of Gotham in order to catch the Joker. Unfortunately, until there's a public outcry, governments and companies will continue to interpret laws in their favor. And that concludes this Bite Site. Please leave your comments below, and thanks for watching.